Good afternoon, everyone. This is Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have Altovise Pelzer on my channel today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this interview.
All righty, let's get started. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Most definitely. So I am an introvert. I am a single mom, but I am a woman who has gone through some things and decided that on the other side of it, I needed to help somebody else get through what they're going through. And so I am the voice coach. I am the founder of the World Voice League, a virtual community of female entrepreneurs coming together to impact social change. Not just that, I am also the host of the Speakeasy podcast, that part, fellow podcaster. And it's all about just being able to connect with women and support them and make sure that their voice is heard in the world.
Okay. Now, what is define, accept, and use?
So when it comes to define, accept, and use, defining your voice is that unique thing about you that really stands out. It's usually that thing that rubs you the wrong way that you can talk about and share and encourage somebody in. Accepting it is accepting what it is that you've been through. Now, that may sound a little harsh for some people because we don't really want to accept what we've been through. A lot of times we want to bury it, we want to hide it. We want to kind of try to forget about it. But once we have that moment where we really accept what we've been through and we look at it as a growing process, it becomes a springboard instead of it being a shackle. And then that takes us to that whole nother level where you just go ahead and let it flow. That means you go ahead, you show up, you show out. If it's doing interviews, if it's speaking on stages, if it's writing books, whatever it is, when it comes to your unique voice, you make sure that that voice is being heard in the world.
Okay. What is your voice and reactivate me?
Oh my goodness. So it has evolved from Reactivate Me to now it is the World Voice League. I absolutely love it. It started as Reactivate Me though, because it was a space where entrepreneurs could come to get reactivated. They could come get some resources for their business. They could come and have a conversation and really have a safe space to be able to come in and say, oh my goodness, okay, things aren't working in my business and brand. What do I need to do in order for me to change? What do I need to do in order for me to move to that next level? And so I needed to be reactivated because a lot of us remember when we first started our business or when we first started writing the book, there was this passion there. There was this purpose. And so I created this weekly accountability call to reignite that passion and purpose in entrepreneurs to be able to say, listen, all right, this week, something may not have gone right. You know, you may have lost a client this week. You didn't get your book finished this week. Okay. We look at what, happened. We evaluate what happened. And then we say, how are we going to make next week better?
Okay. What do you do when you're not writing?
Dancing or being silly or watching some type of interesting movie or those types of things. Or doing something with my kids. I know just recently my daughter had winter concerts. And so one of my most favorite time of year is concert time and musicals. They do musicals. And so going to musicals, those types of things. And I think it really stands out for me because when I was working a full-time job, I didn't always have that freedom. You have to request off and I actually went to one of their concerts and was written up at my job that I was working at previously because I had requested off in enough time, but they didn't give it to me. So I went on my dinner break and ended up coming back like an hour and a half later. But I was determined that I wanted to be there for that moment because the moments go by so fast.
Yes. Well, let's pause right there because my son, he's in the 3rd grade and he did a Christmas play this past Monday. It was phenomenal. I was blown away with the third, fourth, and fifth graders. They did an excellent job. I was like, and I'm a mother that when they have something at the school, I take off, and thank God I got a principal that puts family first. So I understand. I understand. I am a single mom also. So I understand. All right. Do you work with an outline or do you just write?
Okay, so when it comes to writing, I do something called a brain dump. And I tried doing it with an outline. I think it was just a little too structured for me. But with a brain dump, I literally take all of the ideas that I have in my head and I just dump them on a piece of paper. When it comes to a particular topic or a particular book that I'm working on. And then I have my circle of accountability. And so those are the people that I can get on the phone with and say, okay, this is the book idea I have. These are the things that came out of my head when I did my brain dump. Let's put this together. Let's kind of put the Lego pieces together, so to speak, and see what we can make out of this. And that works best for me because I love being able to throw ideas out and being able to bounce it off of somebody that can actually give me an honest opinion. Now, if I'm just thinking of stuff, because I think of ideas all the time, I don't write every book that I think about because some of them are just not books that I need to write, or it may be an idea for somebody else, an idea for a client. But I found myself going, okay, I'll throw out ideas and they'll go, okay, that one's a good one. That one, not so much. Like, let's table that one. It may come up again, but let's just table that one and let's work and focus on this one and let's get this one out the door.
What is your genre?
Self-help, motivation, and honestly, it went from self-help motivation to business resources as well, which was kind of in my mind, it was a big jump, but in all actuality, because of the demographic I work with, it wasn't that big of a jump.
Okay. Is there any author that influenced you in any way when growing up or as an adult now?
My favorite is Dr. Maya Angelou. Oh my goodness. Absolutely love, love, love her. And one of the things that really stood out for me was I was thinking about how we worked so hard to get that first book out. We wanted to be perfect. We wanted to have absolutely no issues on the inside, perfect cover and everything. And I think about her book, I believe it's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And it was republished with a different cover. And I have both copies. I have both. And it kind of sparked some things for me because I said, well, if Dr. Maya Angelou, who did all of these amazing things, who wrote poetry, who did books and movies, and she just kind of like pioneered what it meant to be a writer, an author, a speaker, if she can go and redo a book cover, then I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to do what needs to be done and get it out there and then worry about the rest later.
Okay, let's talk about your books.
So I have authored or co-authored 15 books. I just actually got copies of book number 15, which is Divorced Suddenly Single Moms. It is a 30-day devotional. And I can honestly say that this book and the book right before it were the hardest two books to write. I don't know why that was. I guess because of the impact and what we were talking about in the books. We went through all types of stuff with this book and with the book right before it was A Stage of Their Own. And it was the first anthology that I did through my brand, World Voice League. So we went through, so many different trials, just to the book cover, to the inside, to things missing inside the book after it was published, and everything and anything. But the response and the feedback has been absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Books. Absolutely amazing. And it goes back to the first one, which was It's Okay to Cry. And
That's
that
the one
one
I want.
was, yeah.
That's the one I want right now.
That one was such a journey for me because I really did have to go through a process of understanding that my tears were not a weakness, that my tears meant strength. And we were kind of conditioned in a society where your tears mean that you're weak. Your tears, you're not supposed to cry. You're supposed to pull yourself up by your own bootstrap and just get it together. You're supposed to walk out in the world and make people think that everything is okay when it's not. And so this book was my first attempt at just laying it all out there. Being very raw about what it is that I had went through after finding out my girls had been molested and moving to a whole nother state, and just my mindset and trying to get things done. Like there were so many different obstacles that come up, but I had to let people know it's okay to cry. And once I went ahead and published the book, after, mind you, it took 8 years for the first book to be published.
Wow.
And here it is, 3 years. In 3 years, I've published 15. So it tells you just how much of a struggle it really was to get this first one out.
All right. Go ahead and finish telling me about the rest of your books.
So the rest of the books have been Define Your Voice, which was my second book. And that one was actually the process that I went through to be able to really get to the point where I am right now. And, being able to stand in this boldness, stand in this place of power, knowing that my voice does have power. My voice can impact people. And we all think about this whole idea of an influencer, and we're like, oh, everybody wants to be the influencer. And there's a process to becoming the influencer, because a lot of times we do have to go through some very personal things in order for us to be put into that position, because the things that we've gone through and overcome, and even some things that we haven't overcome, are going to be the same things that our clients and customers and followers and family and community is going to be the exact same things that they need help with. And so defining my voice allowed me to be able to be a voice for other women who had gone through abuse, who had gone through molestation or domestic violence or rape or homelessness or just being a single mother. And each part of the journey has literally been me sharing another piece of my story and my voice. And then it allowed me to also go back and create platforms to be able to help others to share theirs as well.
You want to talk about that you did collabs with?
Oh, the other books? Oh, there's a ton of them. Look, it's a ton. I will say this: the one right before the last one was A Stage of Their Own, and it was a stage of their own more than a movement. And I brought together 13 co-authors to tell their story of how they were taking their life circumstances and creating a movement, creating a message that they wanted to share out in the world. And that was it was a difficult scenario because all the authors were not in the same area. We were all spread out across the East Coast, up and down the East Coast. So, but it allowed us to be able to come together for this one moment and share our voice. That's what it was. And just the feedback from it was so amazing. And then the one before that was Speak Up. And Speak Up is actually a book with 30 plus speakers in it. That one was published through Black Speakers Network. Shout out to BSN and Brian J. Olds. And it brought together some speakers who could talk on different levels of what it means to be that successful speaker and to dominate in the industry, because so many people come into the industry and they don't know where to start. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know what communities to be a part of. And so we kind of come in and get thrown onto this merry-go-round to where we're investing in things that really aren't moving our vision forward as a speaker. And that's one of those pieces that we're not even talking about, is As a speaker, do you have a vision? As an author, do you have a vision for where your book is going to go? Because I can guarantee you, many a person has said, I only wanted to write a book. And that's just where it started. That was just the open door to so many other opportunities.
Okay. What inspires you to write?
So many things inspire me to write. So I have this really crazy goal where I said I wanted to publish 100 books. And of course, with 15, you know, I'm well on the way. But I said, there's a couple reasons why I want to shift the conversation that many, you know, have held back from talking about for so long. I wanted to empower people all over the world. I wanted to, you know, all the words and the moments that I held back from talking about for so long, I wanted to be able to have that heard in the world because I knew that there was somebody somewhere that needed it. And I said, in publishing 100 books, I think I can make that happen. I think that I can make such an impact. I can make an impact with one book, but I know that with each book, I'm hitting a different pain point. I'm hitting a different area. And so it's opening up a dialogue for a different woman to come and say, wow, your story resonated with me. It really did hit home for me. And so that's one of the reasons why I write. The other reason is, and I don't know if it's working, but writing has been a catalyst for me, and it's always was a dream for me. And so I wanted to accomplish this and actually finish it because I want my children to see me finish something. And when they hopefully when they see me finish something, they're able to go back and say, well, I saw her in her 30s publish her first book. So that means 30s is not the end. I saw her, you know, in her 40s go and travel the world. So the 40s are not the end. You know, I want them to be able to really look and say, okay, I saw Mom persevere. I saw her push through some of the hardest times in her life. In the midst of tears, I saw her write and really, you know, heal herself and go through that healing process. I know that whatever I'm going through is not my end result.
Okay. What is your role in the writing community?
I am your pusher. Look, I am lovingly, I'm going to say, my clients call me a cliff pusher. And for many different reasons, but we're going to say I'm a cliff pusher because I help you to really just look at everything and get some things done. I think we're in a society that has allowed us to collect information and talk about the shoulda, woulda, couldas and kind of have the pity parties and do all of these things. And when it comes to writing, I'm the one that's pushing you to say, no, go write about that right now. I'm the one that's pushing you to say, I know you're angry right now. I know you're frustrated. I need you to go record this video. I need you to go talk about what it is that you're feeling in this moment. And I've had clients who just came out of court, you know, with their ex who was an abuser, and they're in tears. And I'm saying, I don't want you to go live. You don't have to go live, but I need you to record your moment right now. And the reason why I'm such a pusher and such, you know, a person that even in that moment won't allow you to just stay in that moment is because there's going to be someone you come in contact with that's going to be in that same exact moment.
Yes.
And you're going to have to know the feeling of being in that moment and what is needed to get past that moment. And so that's who I am. I'm that pusher. I've always throughout life been that motivator, that encourager, that person that's been behind the scenes, really helping and watching people move towards their dreams. And now I get to say that this is my job. This is what I do full time, to be able to sit down with a woman and say, okay, I know things are rough right now. I know the finances don't look right. The bank account is in the negatives and the husband ain't working right. He doing whatever. The kids is doing whatever. Listen, I need you to have this moment right now and get through this moment right now.
What is your testimony?
So my testimony, it's interesting. And in 2015, after I had a conversation with my oldest daughter about trust, it was the first time that I had actually revealed that I had been molested as a child to anybody. And it was one of those moments where we kind of just cried through it. And she held my hand and we cried and, we talked about it. And later on down the line, she said, that was her most proud moment of me. And I said, that really hits home. But it was in 2015 that I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to become the face of my brand. Didn't know what that meant, but it sounded good, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to become the face of my brand, and I'm really going to make some things happen. And December 31st of 2015, I was evicted from my home. And, you kind of go, no, that's not how this is supposed to go. See, I said I was going to make next year, meaning January 1st, the best year of my life, right? And so I had a decision to make. Do I have my normal pity party, or do I actually move forward and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move in what I said I was going to do? And so I had a flight planned, and I went ahead and took the flight. First flight, no problem. Second flight, I had my layover. I'm like, okay. On my ticket, it says it didn't have the group number. So I'm a creative, and my head goes a mile a minute. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I got a fake ticket, and the TSA are going to arrest me, and I'm not going to be able to get home. And this whole story just went through my head, y'all. And so I said, okay, well, let me go let them know that there's no group number on my ticket. Go let them know. They said, okay, no problem. Just go in with group 2. So I'm like, all right, I'll go in with group 2. They call group 2. I get in line, and I'm like, all right, we're doing it. And then I hear my name over the loudspeaker. So now I'm really like, oh my goodness, TSA is coming to get me. Like, she just told me to be get in line, to be comfortable. Now they're going to get me, and they're going to like strong hold me and strong arm me. And I'm like, it's going to be horrible. I go back over to the booth, and she hands me a new ticket, and it says first class.
Wow.
And in that moment, I said, I can't have any more pity parties, because if I have a pity party and I don't move forward in what it is I wanted to achieve, I never know where that upgrade is going to come from. I never know where that first class ticket is coming from if I'm not moving in what it is I said I was going to do.
Wow. Well, what do you consider to be your best accomplishment thus far?
My best accomplishment this far has been, actually, I'll say within this year. Last year, I said a prayer that, God, I want you to be the CEO of my business and brand. And, I had been doing some things. I had already left my full-time job. I was working in my business, putting down profit plans and putting down numbers and having a marketing strategy. And I said, God, I really want you to be the CEO of this. I want you to take over. And all heck broke loose. And I looked around, and people started dropping off and started disconnecting. And I had to start disconnecting from people. And I'm like, God, what is going on? Do you not see all of this stuff going on? What's happening? He said, do you trust me? I said, God, I lost a $15,000 client. I'm gonna say yes, but in my pinky toe, there's a kind of like a little whisper of a no.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, you have to trust me 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, I'm gonna trust you. And has it always gone right? No. Have all my bills been paid? Yes. Have I been able to do speaking opportunities all over and make connections and still publish books and still get clients? Yes. My greatest accomplishment was to keep going, because I look up and there's so many others that have quit.
Mm-hmm.
They quit on their dream. They quit on their children. They quit on relationships. They quit out of fear. They quit, but they quit on everything. And they can't say that they've accomplished anything because it's always a start and stop for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm thankful that even in the midst of all of that, because let's be honest, I had a legitimate reason to quit. I mean, a $15,000 client, I had a legitimate reason to quit and give up. But if I can make it through the loss of a $15,000 client and keep going,
Mm-hmm.
then how much more can I go through and really overcome? And then how much more will he bless me because of it?
Yes. What made you become an author?
That was always the dream. I've been writing since about middle school, possibly even elementary school. I was influenced to write by my grandmother. And at the time, I wrote poetry. So
Mm-hmm.
always writing some type of poem, writing some type of story. And I wanted to get on stages and do my poetry, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm such an introvert that it wasn't going to happen. That was not going to happen. And even now that I am speaking, I still look back and go, are you really standing on stages and speaking in front of, anywhere from a couple people to a couple hundred people?
Mm-hmm.
That's really phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been, a passion for me. And it was interesting because I found that the moments when I did not write were some of the darkest moments for me. They were some of the hardest moments, because that writing was healing for me. That writing was my ability to escape whatever I was going through at the moment and really put myself in a position to do better, be better. It was, it was therapeutic, and in a society or in a culture where we don't really go to therapy like that. We don't go and speak to a counselor. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my counseling. So when my grandmother passed away, that was my counseling. When my mother passed, that was my counseling. When I felt like I was a complete failure, that was my counseling. And it was in every time that I wrote that I got a little stronger, got a little bolder. And then at some point, it just kind of spilled over. And it was like, you know what? It's time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was my next question. What has been the hardest thing about writing a book?
Okay, so I tell this to my clients all the time. We are our own worst critic. And so not editing the story as we're writing it has been the hardest thing for me, depending on what I'm talking about. We want to make sure that the reader has the perfect manuscript. Like in our mind, we want them to have the most perfect manuscript in their hand, the most perfect book, that they're reading it and every line is just filling them with this hope and, oh my goodness, this joy and this purpose. And then when we go through it, if we read through our book we're like chopping it. I mean, we chopping it like we trying to cut the skin off potatoes with a butcher knife. That's not how that's supposed to go. Like that's not how this goes. And so we're literally chopping off important pieces that somebody needs out of fear of not wanting to tell our story full force. And so for the hardest thing for me has been always making sure that I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, if I'm taking something out, am I taking it out for personal reasons, or am I taking it out of fear? Like, what is the real reason I'm taking this piece out or not putting this piece in? And, you know, it's been those times where I know sometimes we do have to go back through, because sometimes we may sound a little bitter when we're writing, or, you know, it's raw emotion sometimes. But just knowing that sometimes it's that raw emotion that really hits home for someone. And if we go back and try to make it sound pretty, it doesn't work. I think about how Eric Thomas talks about, he wrote one book and it was, you know, flying off the shelves. He was selling 50,000 copies. And he said the next one, he had gotten his degree, and, you know, he said, you know, he tried to write it a little more. he tried to bring a little more sophistication to the book. And he said, man, I couldn't get that thing away. And it was because people want that authenticity. They want you. Yes. And although that new part of you is still you, is that what they really resonated with? And is that what they really wanted to hear? And is that what was really going to help them? And so he said he just completely switched it up for the latest book he put out. He said it was a children's book. He said it got pictures and all of that. He said, I went back old school. He said, and he had people call him and was like, oh, I want to get a copy of the book. He said, no, this is not for you. He said, you just want to buy the book just because. Oh. But it was in that, going back to what's the heart of it? The heart of it is making an impact. The heart of it is changing lives. And when we get back to the heart of it, then we stop trying to, like, I guess, detail every step.
Okay. How do you feel about reviews?
So I get reviews. This is the thing. So reviews are the hardest things to get when it comes to being an author. I'm just going to be honest. When y'all see that somebody has had a couple hundred reviews on a book, 9 times out of 10, they've sold like 10,000 copies, 1,000 copies. So when you really look at the percentages, it's horrible because people don't give reviews as much. Like, you really have to, you know, go and say, hey, can you give me a review? Hey, can you give me a recommendation? Can you write something up on Amazon? And I love reviews. I'm an avid reader. I love reading. So I'm like 2 books a week at least. But I go back and I'm like, oh, dang, did I give them a review for their book? So I got to go back and say, oh man, let me go ahead and give them a review. Because it's just not something that's on the forefront of everybody's mind. But it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because then when you do have that one negative review, it sticks out so much, but it's not really a clear representation of your brand. It's not a clear representation of your book. It may have been that one person that didn't like something within the book, but it's not necessarily a clear understanding of it. So it's that double-edged sword.
Oh, and another thing about reviews, I don't know if a lot of authors know this, but when we as readers give you a review on Amazon, if you haven't purchased a certain amount within the year, Amazon will not let you put that review on there.
And that was kind of funky. I didn't understand that one myself.
every time I read a book, I usually put a review. Until a couple of months ago, authors, when they do my interviews, they send me a book, I do a review. Can't do it. So I either put it on my own page, my Facebook page, or my blog, or I talk about it on my channel, or I put it on Goodreads, because I don't really have to purchase books because authors are always sending me books to review. So I'm like, ugh. So my BFF was like, you just got to start buying just something. I'm like, well, yeah, but if they give me one book and I like that book, I usually go buy a second book, a third book, or whatever.
Right.
Like,
And it's a process. It's like,
mm-hmm.
oh my goodness. And you know what it is? One bad apple spoils it all for everybody else. And so this is, so in case y'all didn't know, I'm going to give y'all a little juice behind the scenes stuff. People buy reviews. People were buying reviews. Same way they were buying followers on social media and likes and engagement. Like, people were really trying to put themselves at a higher level than what they really were. And man, it ballooned. And then once different platforms started catching wind of it, they started doing different things to shut it down. But oh yeah, people were going. That's how you had so many platforms on social media where people would have like 20, 50,000 people following them, 100,000 people follow them, and they would do a post and only get 2 likes because they had bought followers.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, like it was crazy. You're like, why don't you have more engagement? What's going on? Even if you gotta think about it, even if 20%, and I did this math for somebody the other day. I said, if you have 1,000 followers and 20% get the notification, that's 200. Even if half of them actually show up, that's still 100. That does not equal 2. So we really got to go back and say, okay, I got to really take it with a grain of salt, because I got to say, okay, is this review real? Is it accurate for what I'm going to read in this particular book? And it's getting better with the changes, but that was where that whole shift came from.
Okay. All right. What projects are you working on right now?
So I have another book that I'm working on. I'm always working on books, right? I have another book that I'm working on that will be out in the beginning of 2020. And it'll actually be releasing February 1st.
Okay.
Super excited about that. And then right now, everything is about the World Voice League. So the blog, the podcast is all about, having people's voices heard. The biggest project is in 2019, I decided that I was going to step it up. And there are a ton of women who are doing some really phenomenal things that people don't know about. People don't know, what women are doing within their business and brand, what they're doing for other women. And I said, I wanted to be that platform and that catalyst to change some things, so that way these women can have their voices heard. And I opened up, my blog, I opened up the podcast, and I said, this is the platform for you to have your voice heard. Let's go all in. And so far, I've had some great women share their life stories and business triumphs that are, set in place to be able to educate and empower the readers to, impact social change, to be the one to step up in their community, to speak about what it is that they've been through. And, people were like, oh my goodness, you're doing this for free? Like, you don't have a price on it? No, because there's not really a price that we can put on it when we think about all of the things that have been going on, to where we're just not giving people a voice. We're silencing them. We're telling them that, their message or whatever they've been through is not validated. It's not valuable. And in all actuality, it's the complete opposite. It's very valuable. One woman's voice has the power to shift a whole generation of women.
Yes. Mm-hmm. How can we get in touch with you?
They can call me on my cell phone. No. You can connect with me in a couple different ways. One of the best ways is to come and join our free community. If you go to bit.ly/World Voice Community, you can join our free Facebook group. We're always sharing different things in there. It is a global platform, a global community. There are men and women in that community who just come and share. And if you're saying that, you know what, you're ready for the cliff pusher, you're ready for somebody that's going to go ahead and set you right for this, this next journey within your life, then let's get on the calendar, bit.ly/talk to Altovise. I would love to connect because and I'm going to tell you, it may be that you're starting out with the book, but we're going to open your eyes to what the other opportunities may be attached to that one book or books. And definitely put you in position to not only have the book published and have your voice heard, but definitely to create your business and brand around it.
That's what I had. I told you, I said, you put up a post yesterday about looking for speakers.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So every year, we had our inaugural one this year in 2019. Every year in February, we have something called a World Voice Summit. And the World Voice Summit brings together authors and speakers, entrepreneurs, CEOs to empower and impact and educate people on every topic under the sun. And so the inaugural one was this February in 2019. We had 100 plus speakers come on from 6 different continents. And they talked about everything from Facebook ads to writing the book to telling your story to relationships. We had a couple different panels, including a teen panel that was absolutely phenomenal. Blew it out the water, as always. We had a teen panel. We had a relationship panel. We had a president for the day panel. And so it was really an opportunity for people to see the other side, and just have that real dialogue and conversation. So for the whole month, we have speakers come on from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're currently opening up the opportunity for speakers. So if you go to bit.ly/World Voice Summit 20, I think that's right. Yeah. World Voice Summit 20. You can definitely get the information for being a speaker. It doesn't matter what level of speaker you are on, as this is your first event, this may be your 100th event, whichever. We want to make sure that you know that the opportunity is open and available to you. Definitely come join us. And it's an exposure opportunity because there are so many different things that I do for the speakers before, during, and after the summit that you really won't find in any other platform.
Okay. I'm interested.
Yes!
I see that post. I'm like, oh, I'm interested. All right. Is there anything else you would like to add before we leave? Before we close?
I just want to say, no matter where you are, don't think that you have to add anything to what you already have in order for you to be successful. Don't think that you have to add anything in order for you to get started. And I think a lot of times, we come into that analysis paralysis and procrastination because we're like, oh, well, we need to do this. We need to lose this. We need to go ahead and get our hair done this way. We need to have makeup on. We need to have, this is the thing. Just show up. That's my challenge.
Okay. Would you like to play a game with me?
Sure.
Okay, it's called Your Favorites. Your favorite snack while writing.
Oh, brownies, Fritos, sometimes together.
Okay. Your favorite color.
Blue.
Your favorite restaurant.
Chipotle.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Hobby as a child.
Writing.
And last, perfume. Your favorite perfume.
I don't wear perfume. I like essential oils though, but I don't wear perfume.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming in today and gracing us. And I do appreciate you coming in today. And this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.